How may I help you?
Hi, I'm Nancy Drew, the new deputy curator over at Beach Hill.
So, you're Joanna Riggs' newest pirate in training. How does it feel to join the ranks with the modern-day conquistadors?
I beg your pardon, but how does a deputy curator become a pirate in your book?
You had better brush up on your history, young lady. When the Spanish explorers invaded Mexico, they became known as the conquistadors, or conquerors. They robbed the indigenous peoples of their wealth, not just their gold, but their artwork, their sacred objects. Anything they did not steal, they burned to the ground.
Alejandro, I understand that many crimes were committed in the name of exploration, but that was hundreds of years ago. What does this have to do with Beach Hill?
There is more. In the 19th century, archaeologists discovered the ruins of ancient civilizations predating even the Aztecs. Many of the dig sites were robbed, and the stolen artifacts were sold off to art museums and collectors around the world. Today, finally, it is illegal among most civilized nations to remove an artifact from its native country. But sadly, there are thousands of precious antiquities with highly questionable provenance floating around the Western world.
But Joanna only wants to display this artwork, to celebrate it, so the public will be able to enjoy it and learn about your people's great talents and achievements.
If the American public wants to see our art, they should come to Mexico.
What do you mean by questionable provenance?
An artifact's provenance is the story of its origin and ownership. For example, how it made its way from a temple at Chichen Itza to a museum in Washington, D.C. If the artifact's provenance reveals that it has been stolen, then that artifact must be returned to the country of its origin.
So the problem has been remedied, hasn't it?
No, not at all. Provenance documents are often tampered with or forged to cover up the theft. Because of this, thefts continue and a great deal of art is moved on the black market, even today. Unethical art dealers and greedy museum curators do nothing to stop this.
Are you suggesting Beach Hill is involved in these kinds of misdealings?
If Joanna Riggs or that overstuffed pillowhead Sinclair had any decency, they would take measures to see that all Maya artifacts were returned to Mexico at once where they belong.
And what if these measures are not taken?
My country will have its due, Nancy, even if I have to begin reclaiming its artifacts with my own two hands.
I see. Well, I should probably get going. Here are the changes to the loan agreement for the monolith. I just need your signature, please.
Thank you. I have some business with Joanna at the museum later, so I will return the contract to her then, after I have looked it over.
Are you sure? I don't mind waiting.
You may consider your mission accomplished.
Well, okay then.
Goodbye.
Beach Hill's been hit. Sit tight, Nancy. The police are on their way.
Topeka Commission for the Arts. That's the organization Prudence Rutherford works for.
Someone has cooked up my worst nightmare and served it to me on a plate.
I'm sorry about the theft, Joanna. It must be a terrible loss for the museum.
That's the understatement of the year.
Did the police find any clues around the display case?
The police took some samples for the crime lab, but they couldn't promise any overnight results. So if you want to put your little magnifying glass up to the scene, it's fine with me.
Great. I'll let you know if I find anything.
Go to it.
You have voicemail.
Nancy, hi. It's Franklin Rose. I'm calling because it's just this theft is very bad news for the museum. You can't imagine the limb we went out on to acquire that Pakal carving. It's been one of the museum's main attractions. I don't want to take you away from your internship, but if you can do a little investigating, well, I think I speak for the whole board when I say we'd be very grateful. Give me a call when you have a chance. And Nancy, thanks.
To replay messages, press 0.
Boswell, Jackson, and Rose, how may I direct your call? This is Nancy Drew, calling for Franklin Rose, please. Just a minute, please.
Nancy, hello. Do you have any news?
Not really, but something tells me this case is going to get complicated.
Oh, Nancy, you zero in on a case like a heat-seeking missile, don't you? I feel so much better knowing you're going to follow up on every lead. I'll help in any way I can.
Thanks, Mr. Rose.
That's what I'm here for.
Need something?
Have you seen Henrik? I found a piece of paper inside the Pakal display case. It had some glyphs on it and a print of a red hand. I'm hoping he can give me a translation.
What am I, fish food? Henrik's not the only one around here who can read a glyph, you know.
Sorry, Joanna. I thought I was supposed to go to Henrik with all my glyph questions.
The police showed me the note. It said, "The magician suffers yellow death," whatever that means. Apparently, the thief just couldn't come up with the glyphs for "the curator suffers flaming purple disgrace."
I'm curious about the red handprint the thief left. Does it have any significance in Maya culture?
Afraid I can't help you there. What I want to know is what the hand was printed with. It's obviously not finger paint. Why don't you do a little analysis on it in the lab?
I haven't seen Henrik since the theft. Where do you think he could be?
Who knows?
Okay, I've got a graph of the chemical used for the handprint. Now I've got to match it up with a known substance. That's it! According to this chart, Hg stands for mercury. S stands for sulfur. So the handprint was made from mercury and sulfur.
Need something?
I did the chemical analysis you suggested. That red hand was printed with a compound containing mercury and sulfur. Does that mean anything to you?
Sure, cinnabar. The Maya would rub it into their most important carvings to add definition to the artist's lines.
Where would a person get a supply of cinnabar?
We use cinnabar here at the museum the same way the Maya did, to keep things as authentic as possible. Henrik orders those kinds of supplies, but we've been out of stock for quite a while. The last I heard, there was some kind of holdup with the distributor.
Why did you become a museum curator?
I became a curator because I want to help make artifacts available to as many people as possible. That's all that matters, isn't it? Unless you're Alejandro Del Rio.
When did Henrik come on board?
I got an email from him one day saying he heard the news about Beach Hill getting the monolith. He said he'd drop everything to come here and translate those glyphs. He was even willing to take a pay cut. What could I say except, giddy up, you're hired.
Do you think Alejandro would go to extreme measures, like stealing, to reclaim Mexico's artifacts?
Who knows?
I've got work to do.
Go to it.
There, now I can start putting this together.
Maya scribes recorded the official history of the king.
Strange, supernatural creatures.
The date on this slab uses the Tzolk'in, or the Maya ball game was a religious activity as well as the Maya were pantheistic, believing in many gods who ruled.
I am Lord Pakal, ruler of the mighty king.
Lady Zach Cook ruled Palenque before her son.
Ceramic bowls, such as the one featured in this exhibit, may have been used.
Although the geographic range of Maya cities is well known, it is difficult.
The Maya used different methods to represent numbers. Here is an example. In addition to adorning themselves with jewelry and costumes, the Maya kings were often in a protracted state of war with local. Archaeologists work in some of the most remote areas of the world. Ham radios are often the only means of contacting the outside world. HAM is an acronym. Ritualized bloodletting was a common practice among the Maya.
There, that looks like it's in order.